house. What's up? It is Monday. It is 8:30. It is time for Conversations with Teresa. What's up? Guess what, guys? We are on our third leg, an awesome leg, a wonderful leg that we have had Steve on with us. This is our third segment of DWW, Driving While White, and driving DEI while white. And what's funny, many funny things, but I don't even know where to start. Last week, I don't know if you guys got a chance to check out last week, but at the end of our conversation, you remember our conversation at the end, Steve? And one of the things that I said was like, Steve, like, I'm a little nervous sometimes talking with you because I'm worried that I might get my black card revoked. And she's like, what you talking about? But talking about diversity and inclusion and talking about these things, my nature is pretty like easygoing, like humor and things like that. But for some other people, this subject really touches nerves, and it's not as, like easygoing and fun. And so I was telling Steve, I was just like, some people might be like, why are you so jokey? Like, why are you so, upbeat? Like, this is a serious conversation. And it can be, but at the same time, I'm going to be me. And guess what? It's my show, so I can do it.
you do you, right?
I'm gonna do you. I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna do me. You do you.
Yep.
But I thought that it was really interesting that I got a little nervous, insecure. I don't know, right? I felt something in that where I was like, should I be asking harder questions? Should I be digging deeper? Should I? I don't know. But then it just made me think of the reason why I asked you to come on is because I wanted your perspective, Steve, as someone who's white. How are you looking at diversity? How are you feeling about things? What is your perception about things? But it also makes me look at me. It looks at how do I look at diversity? How do I handle things? How are things hitting me? So I just thought that was really interesting last week. And I remember that was a subject. I don't know if there was anything else deeper that we discussed when the cameras went off.
That was significant. It was significant for me too. Like to question. I mean, the first thing I said is, I hope I didn't say anything off or wrong, and that is one of the most significant for me obstacles. Like, I need to be mindful that I'm going to make mistakes, that I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be some element of trust that's established. And as you're talking about having your black card revoked and being nice versus being, challenging, well, I mean, it depends on what your motivation is.
Yeah.
Is the motivation to establish dialogue so that we can have honest, clear communication and exchange of ideas? Or is it for somebody to prove themselves right and somebody else wrong?
Mm.
And if that's the case, then we're not going to get far. You're going to shoot me down, or I'm going to shoot you down. And where do we end up?
Right. Yeah. Not in a good place. Not in a conversation.
Not in a conversation. And we move the needle nowhere.
Right.
So exactly. Yeah, but it's scary.
It is. It is very, very scary. And even saying, I remember I had gotten some advice from a friend of mine. I was like, what do you think about this title? The DWW. So she was like, I don't know. But again, putting it out there, I'm putting it out there, and so, like growing up, I don't think I called white people because somehow that seemed wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Because I like in my family, white people were usually the enemy, or it was something. It was different. It was different. It was usually not a nice thing, there's stories on top of stories I'm totally going off a topic here, but I think about, all right, I'm going into like way deep here. So one of my oldest brother, he passed away, but his middle name uh, is McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my mom, like, where in the world did that come from? And she was telling me that when she had him, she was a single mom, and it was a white family who helped her, but insisted that he take on the McMillan name.
Is that right?
And I was like, what? You know? And but it's things like that you're just like, how are you just going to tell me what to name my child?
Yeah.
But they did. And they had, white people had the power to be able to do that. And she didn't, she wasn't like angry, but it was still like that it has nothing to do with us. And yet now it did.
Yeah.
By force, by a strong force. And I don't know if they were ever like, well, we'll help you only if. I think it was more like, okay, I'm going to help you, but now do this for me. It's like, well, what?
Yeah, there's this implication of like, do this and we'll take care of you, or this.
Yeah. So there's so many, I don't even know where that came from, but it's those type of things that, other than a time like this, can we talk about it? I'm not just going to go up to, a random white person and be like, hey, did you know? Right. Or not to my coworker, it's not, we don't create those type of things. I don't think I would. I don't even know what made me think of that right now. But one of the things that's really cool about you, Steven, I said this probably the other 2 times before, I feel incredibly comfortable being able to say whatever I need to say or what comes up or whatever. And I'm definitely pushed a lot more to do so for the good of making this normalized.
Right.
So thank you.
Oh, hey, the pleasure is mine. but it takes acts of bravery. That it's not a natural conversation. It's a conversation that we shy away from, and we shy away from it for various reasons. And white people. First of all, you talked about calling white people white people. White people don't recognize that they're white. A lot of white people will just say, well, I don't have a race. I'm just normal.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And they'll see everyone else as having race and culture and stuff like this. But white people may see themselves as having just like, I'm just kind of here. I'm normal and I don't have culture.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Denial of their own race is a significant variable and a significant obstacle to some of these conversations.
Okay. So that was something I had never thought of.
Yeah.
Right? Never. So if they're thinking, so they're not thinking about race. And so we bring it up.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Right. But that leads to this whole issue of colorblind. If I'm colorblind, or if I don't recognize race, I don't appreciate your lived experience. And your lived experience is very different than my lived experience.
Right.
And I can't just say, well, I treat all humans the same because all humans deserve dignity, respect, and etc. But the lived experience of a Black person and the lived experience of a white person is vastly different in 2024, regardless of what state you're living in.
Yeah. You are dropping some knowledge on me about white people. There's just stuff we're not talking about it, right? It's just you last week you had mentioned I don't know, what was it, 8 or 10 characteristics of white people, and one being that they don't like confrontation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been thinking about that. I'm like, I needed to call you to ask you what that book or article, I don't know what that is, but I don't know a lot about white people. Besides the negative that we have felt, right? And then therefore assumed.
Right.
And then knowing that, but there's some nice white people, right?
I like to think so, right?
But because this is how I grew up. But there are some nice white people, right? Those are the type of conversations that I have. So seek out the nice white people, not the ones who are not nice to us.
But to your point earlier, how do you manufacture the conversation?
Right.
You just don't have that opportunity easily.
So how can we? How do we move forward? I mean, so we have school, right? We're taught things, and then there's a set of dialogue that's in a lesson plan that should go well. It may or may not go well, things like that, right? But work, it's a little different. We're not here to necessarily always, to talk about culture. We're here to do a job. Right.
And
exactly. So how do we do that? How do we start these conversations? Where do we go?
There's a lot to that question. That's the $1 million question that so many people are trying to solve. So for me to spend 2 minutes or a half hour, an hour on that, it doesn't serve it justice. But you're looking at workplaces who are seeking a diverse population. They're seeking to have people from different areas of life, different demographics, different belief systems, different way of thinking, you name it. And it's within the differences, and leadership is seeing that the differences are making teams stronger. So, and that's the business case for diversity is you diversify the way you think and operate, you're going to be stronger.
Right.
So oftentimes that's the leverage point that a lot of leadership teams take. It's like, okay, we want to be the strongest possible. Let's get a diverse team on board. And if you think about like a basketball team, if you've got 5 people on the court and they're all 7 foot tall, 7'4" tall, like rebounders, but you got no point guard, you're not going to be a strong team. You need that rebounder, but you also need the point guard, and you need the forward, and you need the diversity. And that's really watered down, but that's the idea, is that you need different skill sets together. But what happens is when these skill sets get together, these people get together, there's this conflict of assumptions. There's this conflict of values. There's a conflict of not knowing how to relate to one another.
And should we're at work, we are in or not in a diversity training. How do we bring stuff up? Like, I don't even know. Like, how do you bring stuff up if you're not in a training? Do you bring stuff up?
I think it takes the right relationship.
Yeah.
I think it takes some risk, and over the course of time, you could feel somebody out and say, hey, question for you. I just you could start with very simple questions too. Nothing comes to mind right now, but it could be just a small, simple question about white culture or Black culture, where it's just kind of test the water and see how they respond, and go from there. I remember I had a colleague who we were on a walk, and she's like, people are giving me a lot of feedback today. And the feedback is for like very basic stuff. She's like, I didn't do anything spectacular, but I just want to check in with you because I'm wondering if they are giving me extra feedback because I'm Black. And if their expectations of me are so low that suddenly I'm outperforming their expectation. So at some point, she and I had a connection strong enough where she said, I could talk to this guy at least about this much. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that's true, but I felt that when I was here early on too. Like
Okay.
I was making expectations. I was doing my job, and I felt like people were cheering me on as if I had like done some sort of extraordinary thing. But
Yeah.
it was a quiet moment between the two of us where
Right.
over the course of time we established some relationship, and she knew that she could take a risk. And I
Right.
think that's where it is.
That's true. That's very true.
But it doesn't happen naturally. And one of the fascinating things that I've learned is that so much of this has to do with real estate.
Okay.
You look at the cities, you look at the towns, you look at neighborhoods. Segregation is illegal. However, it's very much in play.
Redlining. Absolutely.
So who do you talk? You talk to your neighbors. And who are your neighbors? Your neighbors are the people who look like you most likely. You
Pretty
know,
much.
I mean, same in my town. So like when we're not at work, we're at home, and when we're at home, who are you surrounded by? So
Right.
those conversations, those interracial conversations, don't happen spontaneously. They don't happen naturally. So we have to manufacture them for now.
So you remember I told you I had a friend of mine, a white friend of mine. She'll come and check in with me, like, is it
Yeah.
okay to say happy Juneteenth and, things like that,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So if I were to, I don't know, go up to white people and ask questions like that, like, hey, I don't even know. I don't even know an example. But like, given the fact that generally people don't like conflict, white people don't like conflict, like, can I go up to someone and just like, hey, do you like dogs? I can't even, do you like seasoning in your food? Like, I'm just thinking of like random things,
Sure.
right? But, like, are, would you be prone to be offended if I were to ask something about white culture? I guess I don't even know what white culture is to be able to ask, right? I don't know. Hockey, right? Like, do you like hockey? I'm literally just kind of throwing stuff out there,
Sure, sure.
But would that be offensive? Like if I say, "Oh, Steve, do you like hockey?" Would you be like, "Are you asking me that because I'm white?"
I don't. Well, because it's coming from you, I would say, huh, I wonder what she's getting at. But for real, I wouldn't take offense, but that's because you and I have a relationship.
Yep.
Um, if it was just a random person I was passing down the street and just said, "Hey, white guy, what do you?" I would probably have some pause,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I'd wonder what the motivation is.
Right. Yeah. Because I would be totally offended.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, ask me if I like fried chicken. I do, but don't ask me that. you know?
And that's a significant. I mean, not only that specific example is significant, but it's also like it's not a white person. It's not a black person's responsibility to teach a white person about black culture.
Can you say that again?
I wish I could. Um, it's
It's
not a
not.
black person's responsibility to teach a white person about black culture.
Then how will they know?
They have to do do some reading. They have to look into the literature. They need to look at other cultural things, and they can ask questions. But I shouldn't expect you to give me a lecture on what it is to be black, or
Mm,
why this is important, or why this
yep.
value system is important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the dialogue is the best place.
Yep.
But I shouldn't, every time I have a issue with a black person, I shouldn't be texting you and saying, "Hey, Teresa, what about this? What about this? What about this? How about
Right.
this?" Like it I cannot I have to take responsibility for my own learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes in the form of various resources, including my friendships.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out where I land on it. You're right. We don't have the responsibility,
Mhm.
but I also don't necessarily want someone reading out of a book, because who wrote the book?
Exactly right.
Right?
Who wrote the book? Who approved the
Who
book?
wrote
Who
the
published the
book?
book?
And not only who wrote the book, but who is kind of narrating or trying to narrate how we are seen, right? And so I would almost no, I don't want you to text me every single question, but that conversation, I would rather that. Yes, you can do some. You can say, hey, maybe I read this,
Mhm.
but yeah. So I'm not sure where I land on that, because again, in my experience, like I think about, how media has portrayed young Black men. I
Sure.
see how, who is the narrator of these stories. And so there's a lack of trust there for me to say, oh yeah, go ahead and figure this out yourself, because I don't know where your source is coming
Right.
from, so anyway, it was just a thought.
No, I think it's a great thought, and I think it's really important to have that healthy dose of skepticism. You got to consider the source and know where you're getting things, and I believe that's why it should be a collective enterprise. It's not just me talking to you and your husband, but it's me talking to other folks and
Mhm.
then seeing what else is out there.
How about have a friendship with someone who is different than you? What
Well,
up with
I'm not sure about that. That's absolutely, absolutely.
because that's where it is. But again, there's so many different ways of going about it, but I think you hit it on the head when you just talked about having an honest conversation.
Yeah.
Be it be it at the trainings, at those DEI trainings, uh, be it in the leadership role. If you are in a leadership role and you look around you and you're not seeing a whole lot of diversity in every aspect, whether it's, economical, whether it is skill based, whether it is leadership, whether it is, color or ethnic, all of that stuff,
Yep.
how are you going to have this conversation and who to have it with? Do I go to my human resources person? I don't know. Do I go to the CEO? I don't know. And if I don't know, not to
Mhm.
say that I know everything, but you know what I mean? It's those questions like, where do I go? And so if I don't know where to go, I might be up just to not go.
Right.
You
And
know?
then if it's not safe to go, so you
Right.
don't know, and if you did know it's not safe, then why expand?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just put my head down,
Exactly.
and
So
then you're not seen for who you are.
I tell you, it's a tough one to wrap up in 3 episodes, but there's just a lot, and and perhaps later on, if you are willing, Steve, just to bring you back, there might be something that comes up, and we're like, listen, I need
We're
my DWW partner,
we're
and
we're, we're not at a loss for topics or issues for sure. Absolutely.
you know what I just thought. So I have never done. I've never had to give a DEI training,
Mhm.
right? But I do think that it might be worth it to have something like this of a dialogue at a training. You know, people throw some stuff out there. Maybe it's happening. I don't know if anyone is on and you know that this type of conversation is happening where we're talking about, you know, black cards being revoked and lack of white culture and if white people like hockey and, you know, all that stuff. If that's happening, that's awesome. Let us know so we'll know where to go for the training. But let's open up this conversation. Let's do it, you know. And you know, I raise my hand. I'll be out there with you. I'll ask the questions. I'll say it, especially as you guys can see, things come to my head and I just throw it out there. And see what, because it's not gonna hurt. It only hurts when I keep assuming stuff. Right. Or keep being afraid of stuff or not saying stuff.
Right. And when your intentions are clear, you know, you're not trying to back me into a corner. You're not trying to prove that, you know, I've done, you know, I'm a white person and therefore bad or part of a conspiracy against black people. But hey, you were born with this skin. I was born with this skin, and there's this tension. How do we come together and how do we live together? How do we figure this out?
All right.
If that intention's there, that understanding, we can go far.
Steve, I think we need to do something together.
I'm on board.
Yeah. All right.
I'm on board. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk offline about that. But seriously,
I like your idea. What I was envisioning when you said like a DEI is just kind of like a fishbowl. Like you and I are having a conversation. People are watching.
Yeah.
And they're talking. They're seeing how thoughtful we engage, how like intentional we are with our conversation, and how much space we give each other. You know, I can be clumsy with you. I don't have to be perfect. And likewise, you could be clumsy and kind of fumble a little bit, and we get somewhere.
We get somewhere. Yeah. So for all you guys who are paying attention, you guys are on, you guys are listening. You need a trainer. you need a, you know, I'm just saying, we'll put it out there.
Absolutely.
Because, I think this is something good. It's something that's needed. I mean, I have questions that come up, Steve, you know, and I don't necessarily have the space to ask. Yeah. And then I forget, in all honesty. Like it's not like weighing on my heart so much, but you know, I do have questions. I do have questions about motive, or like, what were you thinking, or how, like, why did you, why, you know, it's the why. So anyway, there we go.
What I've heard so many times after diversity trainings or DEI trainings is, well, we got the conversation started, let's keep it going. But rarely does the conversation keep going. Rarely is there a space where it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about that. So the onset is easy. It's how does that gain momentum?
Okay.
And all right. I think there's potential here to get some momentum.
So we'll put something together and we'll offer it. Coming to you. It's only going to cost you about $1,500 per person. Work it out. Because listen, we still got to get paid, Steve.
That's right.
We got to get paid. Listen, Steve, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up for the evening?
You know, my big thing, you know, prior to coming on, I was thinking about assumptions. And that we all walk into conversations and relationships with our own assumptions.
Yep.
And sometimes it's really good to kind of reflect on those assumptions. What are you coming into this relationship? What are you assuming that other person is thinking? And is that clear? And you know, some of my biggest learnings in interracial conversation is, wow, I had this assumption I didn't even know about.
Yep.
So I think just to be mindful about that can really help kind of establish a little bit more self-awareness, which is what I think we all need. Is like, as I interact with other white people or Black people or whoever, I grow in awareness, and I could bring my better self forward with that.
Yeah.
So
Good stuff. Can I ask you again the name of either the book or the article?
I can send you the
That
article for sure.
that would be great.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll put that on we'll put that up on our website as well, just to as a reference point, because again, I would love, what was it 8 or 10 things?
13. 13.
13. My gosh, there's so much to learn. um I really do look forward to it, because the reality is that I'm ignorant in that area,
Yeah.
right? There's just things that I don't know. So
And the best we can do is keep learning and teaching each other and learning together.
yeah, we got to do it. We're going to make this world a better place.
That's right.
So good stuff. Steve, you're amazing. Thank you so much for
Oh,
your time, for your thoughtfulness, for your gentleness, for your questions, and just being easy to talk to. I really, really do appreciate you, and just the expertise that you bring. You're a good dude.
I'm so grateful to you for creating the space and inviting me in, and I look forward to our next chapter.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, guys, listen up, tune in, make sure you check out the website. I should have it up in within a couple of days as to I'm sorry, is it a book or article? I keep asking you.
There's
The
a book.
13.
There's a book, and
Okay.
there's also an article. I'll send you everything, but there's a book.
Okay. So, a book and an article. We'll send you everything. We'll put it up on the website. It's 13 characteristics of white people that you may or may not have known. All right. That's not the name of the title, but that's just my interpretation of it. I look forward to that. I look forward to learning more, not only about white people, but I think about myself,
Exactly.
in this world. Okay. And so obviously there's more than two races. There's a lot to learn. Let's be curious. Let's be inquisitive. Let's be gentle with each other. And again, just let's be amazing. All right. So until next Monday at 8:30 with Conversations with Teresa, it has been a pleasure. I look forward to you guys having a great week. Happy 4th of July. All those fireworks are for our son who was born on the 4th of July. So it's all about that. You guys be safe. Have a great night. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.